So how are you doing?
Good. Yeah, I had a nice day. Did some running, so it's weekend, so it's all good.
Yeah.
How are you?
Uh, yeah, I'm doing great. I was planning to go to university to record this podcast, but unfortunately it's rainy and I thought stay home. It's better.
Well, some things never change, even across the world, because it's a little bit rainy here as well.
Oh, okay. I think Netherlands has a lot of rain, right?
It used to, but due to climate change, it's pretty much a lot drier. We're getting a lot more like Mediterranean weather right now, so summers are a lot hotter, winters are a lot milder. I'm not complaining, except for the part
So
that
is it
it sucks for the rest of the world.
so I have some friends in Netherlands and they're complaining sometime about the weather. It's really cold and rainy
It's
and
it's mostly in winter. It's very not necessarily always rainy. It's dreary. Like it's always gray. There's no sun,
oh
and that's like seasonal depression kicks in. It's horrible in winter.
yeah, it should be like Seattle in the US. We
Yeah,
call
yeah,
it
it's
Gray
similar.
City, so
Yeah,
every time it's cloudy and
yeah. I
interesting.
met someone from Washington D.C. and she said like it was very similar.
I see. Yeah. Interesting. So how's life? Is everything all right?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's with my PhD right now. I'm doing research, and my paper is due in 4 weeks, and I'm still collecting some data. So I have to work a little bit harder, but it's
Always.
I
Yeah,
like that. I thrive on a little bit of pressure.
that's the researcher life. So no complaint. So
Yeah.
Muriel, could you please introduce yourself to the people watching us and then I can start digging into questions.
Yes, absolutely. So, hi everyone. My name is Merel. I am from the Netherlands, born and raised in the Netherlands. I've studied in the Netherlands, studied computer science here at Delft, both my bachelor's and master's degree. And right now I am doing a PhD in computer science with a focus on education. So, during my studies, it was mostly um, very technical based, a lot of hard skills, the programming and the algorithms and all that other stuff. And right now, I kind of wanted to focus a little bit more on the social aspect of it as well. So I'm researching teamwork in computer science.
Wow, that's fascinating. You did all your grades in Netherlands and TU Delft.
Yes.
And I think the people know already TU Delft is one of the best, and I think the best school in Netherlands, one of the top schools in the world, especially in engineering. So it's technical university. So
Yes, it's a
and
technical university.
why did you decide to do PhD?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I was doubting a little bit if I wanted to do a PhD. Because first of all, it doesn't earn you a lot of money. So if you want to earn a lot of
Mhm.
money, don't do a PhD. Um, but I in Delft, it's in your at your masters you have it's 2 years, and the first year and a little bit of the second year you take courses, just like in your bachelor's. You take courses that are a little bit more research focused than during your bachelor's degree. But the last 3 quarters of the last year, so that's roughly 8 months, those are a master thesis where you have to do an independent research project. Of course, you have a supervisor, but you have to do one research project that leads to your thesis, which is usually like 50 to 100 pages long. So it's not one paper; it's an entire thesis. Um, and I always said, I don't know if I want to do a PhD. I might want to go into industry, and I'm just gonna see whether I like my thesis or not. And guess what? I did. Most people actually don't like it that much. And I really like my topic. I really like my supervisor. That was one of the main things why I chose to do a PhD. Because the supervisor is a big part of your PhD. Don't underestimate that if you're doubting. The supervisor really can make or break it. Mine is great, so that's amazing. Um, and I also was a little bit scared that if were to go into industry, I would become a little bit bored, maybe, with doing the same thing every time because I'm quite young. I'm in my 20s, so I have to work for another at least 40 years. I don't want to do the same thing for 40 years. And of course, if you go into industry, you won't. But I feel like these 4 years, I just want to do something that's fun to me. And a PhD is. So that's why I chose to do it.
That's great. Okay, you want more challenges then. You don't want to do the
Yeah.
repetitive stuff. And Merel, before digging into more PhD stuff, I am interested to know more about the master side of the uh, part that you did in TU Delft. I'm not familiar, honestly, with the details of the education in Netherlands. I really love to know more about the master degree. Do you have thesis? Do you do projects? Or is it just like passing courses and getting your degree and getting to the next level? How was it for you?
So in the Netherlands, it works a little bit different than in the US, if I'm correct, that in that you cannot do a PhD here if you don't have a master's degree, at least from Dutch universities. I think it's a little bit different if you study that in the US university. I don't know the exact details. At least here, if you want to do a PhD and you have a bachelor's from a Dutch university, you also need a master's degree. So that's one thing.
So
Bachelor's is
you don't have direct PhD,
no.
but we have here in
Well,
the US. So.
you, I I'm saying no. I don't think so. I might be wrong here, but as far as I
Okay.
know, you need a master's degree. Um, so the bachelor is 3 years, and at Delft you start the first year. It's a set curriculum. It's all courses, so it's split up into 4 quarters. So you have 2 quarters per semester. They're all roughly 10 weeks long, and you take 3 courses per quarter and have an exam at the end of it, or a project that determines your grade, or something like that. And you have to pass all these courses. That's it. In the second year of the bachelor's, you can have courses again, but you can choose some of them. So there's, we call them tracks, where you choose 3 courses, and those 3 courses are like packages. It's a package deal. So, for example, I did the systems track, which means I did stuff like digital systems, I believe, embedded systems, and operating systems, where each quarter I have a new course that builds upon the previous ones. And then at the last quarter of the second year, you do a big group project. It's just one course, a big group project full time, with a group of 5 people, where you solve a real world problem. You also have a client, who is usually a company. And yeah, in 10 weeks you have to deliver a software product to them. I'm sorry, my cat just decided to get into view.
Oh, cute.
And then in the third year is more free. So the first 6 months you take a minor. That works a little bit different in the Netherlands as well. You have to do a minor. So you can either do a minor that's more in depth on computer science. That would usually be at another university or going abroad, something like that. Or you take a minor that broadens your view, which is what I did. I did a minor in education, where I spent 6 months taking courses about becoming a teacher and also teaching high school students in kind of an internship. And I got a teaching license for that, so I'm actually licensed to teach at high schools. Then you have 3 more elective courses, and then you have your final bachelor thesis, where in 10 weeks you do an independent research project, but a smaller one than in the master's, and deliver 1 paper of 8 pages at the end of it. And then you get your degree if you pass all that. So that's the bachelor's.
Thank you for
And then the master
comprehensive explanation.
is 2 years. Yes, I am going in depth about this. The master is 2 years, and it's the first year is similar to the bachelor's. It's all courses. You can choose your courses. They do have tracks again, similar as in the bachelor, where you choose like course packages. And this has a reason, because each of these course packages belongs to a research group here at TU Delft. And in the last year, you have to do a research project of 8 months to deliver your thesis, and your supervisor will always be from a certain research group. And they want you to have some prior knowledge, so they want you to take their courses, so you can choose these research groups from whom you've taken the courses. And that's an independent research project, which takes 30 weeks, 30 weeks. Full time. You have to schedule your own research, usually figure out your own research questions, do the literature survey, collect data, process the data, analyze the data, write everything down. Sometimes you can write a paper and publish it if your work's of good quality, but otherwise you have to kind of defend it. You always have to defend it, even if you do write a paper. So at the end of the master thesis, you have a committee who is your supervisor, the head of your research group, who can be the same person, and then an independent researcher as well, to make sure your grading is actually fair. You give a presentation, and then they ask you all kinds of questions, and you have to defend your work. You have to show that you've thought about applying your work in different areas, or how it would work if you did something else, or what future researchers could do with your work, some stuff like that. And based on that, you get a grade for your thesis, and your combined grade of the courses and the thesis weighted is your GPA.
Okay,
So
that's
how it
perfect.
works.
So, thank you. So you had experience of doing research in
Yeah.
master. So yeah, that's great. So if someone want to get into industry, it wouldn't be hard for them because they already have that experience of working independently, doing some research and
Yeah.
that kind of things.
Yeah, a problem is that the courses are not super applied to real world knowledge, I would say. So we're not learning specific frameworks, specific programming language. Of course, you learn programming languages and learn to work with certain frameworks. We more learn the concepts behind it, which can make it a little bit hard to get into the industry and get working, especially since you don't have a lot of actual experience with building a project, and that's often what companies want to see. But I would still argue it's not that hard to get into industry because you learn super quickly. You can adapt super
Yeah,
quickly if you've done a master's degree here. Yeah.
perfect. So Merel, what is something that surprised you in your PhD life?
What surprised me is the first feedback I received, because my first research is figuring out what is actually the problem that I'm going to try and solve with my research. And my supervisors actually told me, let's just assume that that problem is there. We want to know that you're the right person to solve it, and that you are able to use the right tools to solve it. So that was kind of surprising to me, because I was like, we need that theoretical knowledge, right? And of course we do, but we also need to be able to apply our research, and that was kind of surprising. It's not all just theoretical.
I see. So what are the most used tools for you as a PhD in CS right now?
Ooh, good question. That's very personal. It really depends on your topic, on your personality, on what works for you. Overleaf, tool number one for writing. I personally use Todoist for my to-do list, which would say my tool number two, definitely, because I cannot live without my to-do list. I personally use Atlas TI for coding and analyzing my qualitative data, but not everybody uses it and not everybody likes to use it. So it very much depends. I'm not coding that much right now, but any IDE or language kind of generally works if you want to do some data analysis. Yeah.
How about the recently appeared tools like ChatGPT, Cursor, or
Yeah, I personally try to not use AI that much. My colleagues are working on researching how we're using AI in education, or if we should be using it at all, or how we should be teaching AI. So that's their research, and I kind of touch upon it a little bit, but the main conclusion is don't use it too much, because people become dependent on it way too quickly. I do occasionally use it, but I really try to limit it because of all the environmental impact as well. That's a big thing for me. But if I use it, it's mainly about writing, and I never copy paste from ChatGPT, but I ask it to give feedback on my on the sections that I've written, or ask it to give me a structure. I explain to it how I want to write a section. It writes it for me, and then I kind of follow the flow of the text. But I do absolutely rewrite everything it says. Yeah.
Okay.
And always fact check. I never use it to find facts, just for inspiration. Personally, I use it when I need gift ideas for people. It's great at that.
Yeah, I think that's the best use of it. I know many people start using cloud. I'm not sure you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
That people say it's a great source for someone who writing papers, needs to cite some references. Cloud can be a good candidate, but I haven't personally used it that much. But yeah, I see it's really good.
There's also Illicit, which can write kind of like literature reviews or short surveys for you. I've tried to use it to find some sources, but it didn't really work for me. So I was like, I'll just do it myself the old-fashioned way. It might take a little bit longer, but in the end, I am also the one that needs to know these things, and that gets me quicker. If I keep using AI, it will keep doing it for me, and I won't learn anything from it. So you kind of have to think for yourself, at what point does it become, at what point does it kind of replace the skills you would otherwise build? And I'd rather have the skills.
So Merel, do you think we need to know coding these days? Sometimes
Yes.
I'm getting messages. One of my friends texted me. I'm planning to start learning C++, Java, that kind of things. And when I'm coming to ChatGPT, it can do all of this stuff for me. And I'm getting really disappointed. Why should I learn this? Whenever I need it, I can come and ask. I can say in English, and ChatGPT can change it to the codes and everything I want.
Yeah.
What is the point of learning it?
There's 2, maybe 3 points I want to make here. The first one is I want to cite a paper. I am an academic after all. I don't know the title or authors by heart, but I'll send it to you afterwards if I can find it. There was research on people using AI to write code, or people using Google and Stack Overflow to write code, and people, I think it were 3 groups: AI, probably ChatGPT, Google, and Stack Overflow. And the thing is that the people who used AI thought they had very secure code, and the code worked. It was not secure at all. The people who used Google or Stack Overflow, and I think there was an extra group, I don't remember that well, they thought their code was less secure, while it was actually more secure than the AI group. And then when they asked the people to reproduce their work, I don't know, a bit of time after, without using AI, only the people who used Google or Stack Overflow could do it.
Wow.
So we built false trust in a system that actually is replacing the skills we should be able to do. And I agree, for small and simple things, AI can absolutely write the code you wanted to write yourself. And it can absolutely help you. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be teaching code. It's kind of similar, I would say, to spell checkers. Because we have spell checkers, you don't always need to know exactly the spelling or need to think about it. Doesn't mean you don't need to be able to spell. I think it's the same principle that applies here. And I think it's a shame that it's going to take a while for teaching to adapt to this. We need to teach different skills, or maybe a little bit more nuanced. But absolutely knowing the fundamentals of your code is super, super important. Will always be important, no matter whether AI is writing it or you are writing it. And fact-checking. Fact-checking is becoming a big thing with AI. And security of your code is absolutely crucial. Because AI, at this moment, doesn't write super secure code. I mean, it's going to keep improving, of course. But I still think humans are going to need to be able to code.
Yeah, that makes sense. Some people say PhD students work too much and get paid too little. Well, how do you think about it?
I think generally that's true. I also think that as a PhD candidate, it very much depends on your supervisor, but also you need to be assertive. First of all, in the Netherlands, you get paid a living wage. It's not as much as you would earn in industry for computer science, but it isn't bad. As for working too much, I see that happening quite often. I don't work too much myself. I work a 9 to 5. I quit at 5. I'm like, don't call me in my free time. That's it. But I think the difference is that I started a PhD in a city where I'd already been living for 7 years. I already have a social network. I have things to do outside of work. I see my PhD as a job, and that's it. And a lot of people see it as their life's work, as their passion. I think that's great. It can also be very dangerous, because that means that the lines will get blurry. You need to be able to relax. You need to have a social life. And especially if you're moving to a new city or a new country, you need to build that social life. And that takes time. And it can be very tempting to just say, oh, but I will do that tomorrow because tonight I want to work on my project. But if you do that every night, you're not going to be happy and you will burn out. And even if you think you won't, you will. And having a burnout when there's no support structure around you, I mean, a burnout is never fun, but it's even worse when there's no support structure. So, yeah, I would say build that social life. Also, learn to say no. Setting boundaries is very important. And I think a lot of people are kind of scared of their supervisors. And in some cases, that might be justified. Don't get me wrong. But I have a great supervisor. I know that if I say, listen, I'm too swamped with all of these things, I cannot take on anymore, she will say, sure, don't take on anymore. So yeah, learn to say no, learn to prioritize, and build a social life. I think that's my main advice. It's just a job, treat it as one.
That's correct. So have you ever thought about stopping your PhD and leaving PhD life?
No, not about stopping. I have had some doubts about whether it had been the right choice, but no, I hadn't doubted. A difficult thing about doing a PhD, though, I will say, and that's something you need to be prepared for, because I've heard a lot of people saying this, is it might sometimes feel like everyone is kind of climbing the corporate ladder and getting all these promotions. And in 4 years, a lot of stuff can happen, especially earlier on in your career. And you're kind of stuck at the university for 4 years. You know where you will be. And that can sometimes feel a little bit lonely, I would say. I would also say don't worry too much about it. Most people in their PhD are in their 20s. You're super young. Who cares? As long as you're having fun, literally who cares? And even if you're older and doing a PhD, as long as you're having fun and you can support yourself because you need money to live, unfortunately, keep doing what you're doing. It will be fine.
Have you had any other countries to apply for a PhD, or you just targeted your own country, Netherlands?
No, I actually didn't even apply for this job. So that's I had a huge opportunity. I've been super lucky with this. In that I was doing my master thesis, and my supervisor had some budget left, and she had in her contract that she could hire a PhD candidate just from her budget, and she was like, "You want it?" So I kind of got it thrown into my lap. Otherwise, I would not have started a PhD if I would have had to actively look for a PhD candidate position and change supervisors, especially a supervisor that I didn't know. I think I would have just gone into industry.
Wow, interesting. I thought you have applied hundreds of schools, and because that's the normal thing.
That's how it
for
usually
students.
goes.
Yeah. That's great. You got it with even zero application.
Yeah,
So,
I realize that's I'm super lucky, but it kind of also is a thing that networking is super, super, super important in all aspects of life. It just, yeah,
wow,
meet people, leave an impression. Yeah, even
I
if you're
was think
introverted, you can absolutely still network.
I was thinking network is just important in the US because here
No,
communication is the everything.
no. Network is important everywhere. Yeah.
True. Okay, let's go to the city part of the PhD. How is life in Netherlands? And can you tell us more about the city you're living? I know Delft is a city, right?
Yeah.
And it's more a student-based city, is kind of college
Yeah.
town. And can you tell us more about the place you're living? And
Yeah, so I don't have a lot of comparison material in terms of country because I've only ever lived in the Netherlands. I mean, of course, I've gone on holiday abroad, but that doesn't really count. So I can say the experience that I've heard from other people, which is in the Netherlands, we bike a lot. That's one. I do not own a car. I have never owned a car. My parents have a car, but I do not own a car. A lot of my friends are in their 20s, they don't own a car. We don't really drive that much. We bike everywhere, or we take public transport, which is also great here. Expensive, but great. So that's one thing. We're known as pretty stingy. So there are people who would offer you some food because they have some left and then send you a tikkie, which means you get a payment request of €3 because they offered you food. I would say if you encounter these Dutch people, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, run. We're not all like that. But no, yeah, that's just two things about the Netherlands. In general, I would say it's a pretty nice country to live in. It's pretty safe. There are not a lot of cities that I feel unsafe as a woman alone at night. Delft is very nice. It's a small town, small city. It has 100,000 inhabitants, and it's right between Rotterdam and The Hague, which are larger cities. It takes like 10 minutes by train to get there for either of them, or 45 minutes by bike if you want to go there. It has an old history. Like, it's the town where the royal family gets buried if they die. So it has a lot of history. Figure it out yourself. Look it up on Wikipedia. Get here. It's a touristy city as well. It's really, really pretty. And about a quarter of the inhabitants, I believe, are students. So about 25,000 students and 100,000 in total. So 75,000 other citizens. The campus is pretty large. Well, not for US standards. For Netherlands standards, it's pretty large. And it's a little bit, well, it's not outside the city, but it's kind of like its own neighborhood. And yeah, there's a lot of different faculties. And it's pretty nice. There's a lot of societies here, student societies, that students become part of. You can kind of compare them to sororities, but not really. It's a little bit different, but a bit similar. But there's also societies for sports. So we, for example, do not have a university basketball or volleyball or whatever, but we do have student clubs for volleyball and basketball and hockey and tennis and whatever you can think of. Swimming, few rowing associations. Rowing is very big here. And they're a large part of both the social life and the active life. I would really recommend to be part of something like that if you want to build your network and if you're in the Netherlands. And yeah, so studying here is about more than just the studies, which is something that especially international students sometimes have trouble with a little bit. That it's super important in the Netherlands to do extracurricular activities. And for example, I did a full-time board year where I took a year of studying between my bachelor's and my master's. And I was the part of the board of the study association here. So we organized events for education, for career, but also social events. We collected feedback about education, all kinds of stuff. We were very involved in the faculty. And I did that voluntarily. I did not get paid for that. But that thing is actually, I did a few job interviews, and all those job interviews were about that year. Because they see you have a diploma, you have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in computer science, we believe you can program. That's gonna be fine. You do a technical thingy and we'll figure it out. And even if you can't, you probably learn it in 3 weeks, it's okay. But the other skills that you can't really teach during a degree, or maybe you can, but we don't really, that's what they're interested in, because that's what differentiates you. So that's stuff like internships, a board year, committees, association work. That's super important in the Netherlands. So that's a big part of Delft.
Thank you. That was great information. How diverse the university is from your perspective?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's a few dimensions to diversity, of course. I would say in terms of international students, there's quite a lot. I'm not sure about the entire university, what the ratio is. I know that at computer science, it's about 50-50. International and Dutch. So that's great. In terms of gender, there's not a great... there's a bit of a gender gap. They're trying actively to close it. So they're doing all sorts of research also in the entrance exams to close the gender gap, because it's about 20% women in computer science and 80% men. The first year consists of 550 students, so that's still enough women. So I would say if there's any women listening and doubting whether they want to sign up, please do. Even in those 100 students, female students, you will find some people who align with your values, who can be female friends. And also the men, they are quite nice, it's okay. But what I do notice, and I do think that might be true for most universities, is there is a bit of a, I don't know how to say this, but class gap, I would say, or income gap is maybe the right word. So I do notice that people who are studying are generally from a little bit richer, like middle class to higher class families. There's not a lot of low income students here. And I do think that's very unfortunate.
So Dutch people like to do PhD?
Most people think I'm crazy. No, I think it's the same as anywhere in the world, where some people will never understand why I do a PhD and other people will think, great, but not for me. And some people will be jealous and want to do a PhD. I think it's pretty similar. People want different things out of life, and I don't think a lot of people think that it's generally better or worse to do a PhD.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's more personal decisions, but in the US, when I'm seeing more PhD students are from China, India, Iran, or countries like that, and Americans usually stop in college. They get their bachelor's, or in the worst case, master's, and then get into the industry and do whatever they prefer to do. And
I think a big difference there is that definitely, at least between the US and the Netherlands, is that in the US you pay way more tuition. Tuition in the Netherlands is way cheaper, especially for EU students. You only pay like 2,000 euros, 2,500 euros per year. For non-EU, it's a little bit more expensive. It's like 20K, because the EU pays a lot. EU citizens pay a lot of taxes for the education. So I think that's a big difference, in that I can choose to do a master's because it will only cost me 5K. It will cost me a little bit more because I don't have an income while I'm doing a master's, but you kind of get the gist. It doesn't set me back like 100K on top of living expensive.
Right. So by getting your PhD in CS, do you have any kind of goals, dreams to join any specific position, to hold any position in a specific company, or you want to do academic life, be a professor? What is your future goal by getting this PhD in CS?
Good question. I don't have any.
You don't have any.
So a lot of people, they get into their PhD with the idea, I want to become a professor, or I want to get this and this and this done. I just want to have fun, and I usually don't really look ahead more than 2 years because so much can change in those 2 years. So I just have the goal that I want to be happy and I want to have fun and I want to be able to sustain my life. So I am achieving all of those goals currently, and that's good for me. And when I'm done with the PhD, I guess then we'll see what happens. What I want to do then, because I still have over 3 years to go. So I could say now I want to become a professor, but I don't really know if I want to stay in academia. I don't know if I don't want to stay in academia. I don't know.
Yeah, especially in this era, this technology is coming out every day, and that's hard, to make plans for 5-10 years from now. So what has been the hardest moment in your PhD life so far?
Ooh. Past summer has been a little bit hard because I kept working while a lot of my friends who might still be studying either had summer holidays or took time off work. I have a deadline at the end of September, so I didn't really take a lot of time. I did take some time off because that's generally recommended to take time off. I think it's actually required. You have to take at least 2 consecutive weeks off in summer. But all my colleagues were on holiday and I was working. So that meant either I was in the office alone or I was working from home for weeks on end. And I don't deal well with understimulation. So I was a little bit bored, but I still had to work. So that was a little bit difficult. Other than that, I haven't had a lot of very hard moments yet.
Nice. So how do you handle stress or the times that you're not feeling good, everything is not perfect? Do you have any specific tricks, strategies?
Well, first of all, try to avoid that. So I mentioned my to-do list before. I put everything I have to do in my to-do list. So if I know I'm starting a project, I immediately put everything like Kanban style in the to-do list, and every week I can fill up my calendar with those tasks as well. I put those tasks in my calendar, so I block time for that. So I am pretty realistic with time planning. That really helps. So I can also pretty quickly see if I'm doing too much. And if I'm doing too much, I will either signal it to my supervisor, say no to something, try to ask for help, or if it's only for 1 week, I can handle it, but I will take a day off next week. So that's one. I generally deal better with having too much to do than with having too little to do. With this having too little to do, it was mainly I didn't have too little to do. I only had one project to work on, so I couldn't really switch. So my mind was only working on one thing, and I need to be able to switch. What I did is I took a few days off, focused on other things, planned some nice things in my social life, and I tried a change of scenery. So I went to the office some days, even though I was alone. I asked some of my friends who were still working, like, hey, you want to work together for a day? And I also tried to find some other things to do during work. Yeah.
What are your favorite hobbies, especially for the weekends?
Yeah, so my favorite hobby is playing volleyball. I've played volleyball all my life, and I've recently started up after a little bit of a hiatus during studying, and I'm just getting so much energy from it. I've picked up running as well. I don't like it that much, but I have a goal for myself that I need to obtain. So I'm running a 10K in November, so I'm running towards that. Exercise is generally my favorite go-to, but I also really love to read. I love to just hang out with friends, and it sounds like a stupid hobby, but I'm super extroverted, so I need people around me. I need conversations, and I need we have this word for that in Dutch. It's called gezellig, which means a nice atmosphere. It can either be having a good chat with someone. It can also be like a cozy environment. It's all encompassing basically. So that's one of my favorite hobbies. And other than that, I play the piano, but not that well. I take lessons. So yeah, I'm doing quite a lot.
I like it. You have a lot of stuff going on, not just
Yes.
research.
Yeah,
When we
absolutely. Yeah, research is just my job. The other stuff is more important to me.
Yeah, that's great. When we see researchers, around myself personally here in the US, they spend a lot of time for research, even on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday. That's happened to
Yeah.
me personally too. We usually spend a lot of time for doing research here in America. And
Yeah.
that kind of work-life balance, a little bit not working here. And more we
Yeah.
spend time for research.
So I would say there's definitely researchers in the Netherlands that do that too. And I think in academia, it's definitely worse than in other fields, except for maybe like economics and trading and stuff like that. That's a whole other can of worms I don't want to open.
Mhm.
Um, in academia, I see it way more, like burnouts, people working on the weekends, unrealistic expectations. But we have, I would say, better laws in the Netherlands than in the US regarding holiday hours and free time. Um, for example, we do not have sick days. The concept of sick days is not a thing here. If you're sick, you don't come to work, you take time off, it's paid, point blank, just period. Um, Another rule, for example, I'm not sure if that's a law or a rule of the universities. I think it might be in the salary agreements. Is that in summer you have to take at least 2 consecutive weeks off. I have 40 PTO days, so 8 weeks
40.
of paid, 8
Mhm.
weeks of paid vacation per year, and I can buy more if I want to. And they send multiple emails throughout the year to remind us to take those days. They really want you to take those days because if you don't take them, they have to pay you. And they don't want to pay because there's huge budget cuts in higher education. So they really, really, really want you to take those days. And also they want you to take those days because they don't want you to get a burnout because that's way more expensive. Yeah. So I think there's generally a little bit of a culture difference there, but I would say still in academia, I see unrealistic expectations and unhealthy work-life balance way more than in other fields.
Interesting. Nice. If you could start your PhD again, what would you do differently? What would you change?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. Mm, I think I would read up a little bit more about educational theories. So my background is in computer science, but I'm doing a computer science education PhD, and I kind of am now catching up with the kind of educational theory, but it's a very big field. So I think I would have just spent a month just reading papers on educational theories and figuring out what's normal in this field. Um, Other than that, I wouldn't have changed that much. Um, yeah, I'm a little bit slow with writing my first paper, but the first paper is always slow, so I wouldn't have changed that much, I think.
Nice. Is there any rule, any secret that you want to tell students who are going to do PhD that can help them to be more successful?
Um, I think generally, and especially in the Netherlands, but I think generally people appreciate assertiveness and feedback way more than you expect. Very often people are afraid to give feedback, are afraid to say no, are afraid to stand up for themselves because um, they feel like it might hurt the other person's feelings. Um, and especially if you're a huge people pleaser. Well, actually, I have noticed that people generally appreciate it more if you're honest with them. And it doesn't mean be rude. It means be honest about your feelings, about your expectations, about how you're doing, about what you can and cannot do. It's way more important to be honest about all of these things. So I think that's the biggest thing. And the second would be take care of yourself. So treat it as a job. And it can be a little bit more difficult depending on how much you're paid, but treat it as a job and make sure you have stuff going on for you, because you're more than just your research. You're a whole human being, so take care of that human being. If it helps, treat yourself like a Tamagotchi. You need to keep yourself alive. And that doesn't just mean eating and sleeping.
That's true. Yeah, take care of your mental health and be careful while doing PhD. PhD is like a marathon. It's going to take a long time. Just keep yourself safe.
I like that analogy. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah.
In your opinion, is doing PhD worth it?
I don't know yet. I haven't finished, so I can't tell you.
So which year you are? Merel?
I am first year. Yeah,
first
almost
year.
Coming up on 1 year. Yeah.
Okay.
So, so far, yes. But I think that depends on your goals and your expectations. For me, my expectations were that it's a job where I can choose my own path. It's very free. And I like doing it. And so far, that's true. So, yeah, in that sense, it's worth it. It very much depends what you want to get out of a PhD. If you're thinking, it's really nice to be able to be called doctor, and that's the only reason you want to do a PhD, please don't do it.
Yeah. So one of the important things for me as a student who came abroad and doing PhD is the society, and especially the food part of the story. Because I'm really picky person, it's really important for me to find the food that I like. What do you think about the food in Netherlands and Delft? Do you have?
I am Dutch. I am not the right person to ask.
Oh, really? Why not?
Do you know about British food and the way it's like bland and tasteless?
Mm-hmm.
I would say generally that's true for Dutch too. Traditional Dutch food, at least. And I'm going to offend a lot of Dutch people here who are going to come for me. But that's okay. No, but I think the thing about the Netherlands is we have food from all over the world. You can get your normal like burgers and stuff here. You can get Asian food. You can get traditional Asian food if you find the right restaurant and the right store. I think the advantage of Delft is it's a very international city already, because there's a lot of international students. And it's right in between Rotterdam and The Hague, which are bigger cities. You can find all kinds of food here. But generally speaking, we don't eat out as much or order in or whatever. We just cook. And you can make anything you want. The world's your oyster.
Okay, perfect. That looks okay. I don't think
do be ready though for our traditional breakfast and lunch, which is broodje kaas, or a sandwich with cheese. It's just 2 slices of bread with some cheese in between. That's what we eat for breakfast and lunch. So if people are saying they're gonna give you a fancy lunch, expect a fancy sandwich. That's it.
Nice.
We don't
love to try one day.
We don't eat like hot food for lunch usually. It doesn't mean you can't, but generally.
How about seafood? Dutch people eat a lot of seafood, or?
Yeah, depends. Some people do, but not that much, I would say. So I would say we eat, for example, have some pastas or some sandwiches with some salmon on it, or we eat shrimp, but we don't very often just eat fish with stuff. We do, however, have some traditional foods, which are great, but the Dutch are great at snacks, which are seafoods, which is herring. And you eat it by holding it by the tail and just dropping it in your mouth, while being careful of seagulls trying to steal it. And we have kibbeling, I don't know the translation of that fish, but it's fried fish. It's very good. But both of them are snacks. So the Dutch are great at snacks. We have the cubes of cheese. We have the bitterballen. We have stroopwafels, which are cookies with like caramel, I think, in between. It's stroop. I don't know what the translation of that is. Like syrup-ish. So we have the herring. We have kibbeling. We have... what do we have? Well, drop. Not a lot of people like it. It's like licorice. But we have a lot of snacks.
Nice.
That are traditional Dutch.
Great. So I'm gonna give you some words, and if you can tell what you're feeling about these words.
Okay.
The first one is TU Delft, the university you're studying.
Mixed feelings. I love the level of education at TU Delft. I think it's pretty good. I think we're doing a lot of great things here. And the university is trying to improve, but there's also a lot of things that go wrong. I would say in that we're slow to respond to societal changes. There's been a huge scandal about how do you say that? Like border crossing behavior, intimidation, stuff like that. And I do think that the university can definitely improve on these things. But I think generally the people that work here are willing to do that. It just needs to come from management as well. It's a little bit slow sometimes. But in terms of education and the teachers, I think they're great.
Nice. My second word is computer science.
Love it. I love the field. I've always loved solving puzzles, and computer science is just solving puzzles all over, like every time. Yeah. And
the last word, AI.
Mixed feelings again. I think we can do great things with it, but it's a tool, and it's a tool that is too widely used for the things it wasn't invented for.
Okay. Thank you, Merel. That was great. And I think I'm almost done with my questions. For the last, I usually ask 2 questions at the end. The first one is, do you feel happy? Do you feel calm, relaxed in your life?
Yeah, I'm generally happy. I think that's been a theme throughout the interview as well already. That's my main goal in life, and that's what I'm achieving so far. So, yeah.
Yeah, happy to hear that. And what advice would you like to give the students who listen to us that can make them to be more successful, more happy in their life?
I think to make them more successful, that's a tricky one, because a lot of people measure success by the expectations of others, and it's easier said than done, but try to figure out what you want out of life. And I don't mean I want this position, because why do you want it? Do you want it for fame and glory? Or do you actually want to do that? Is that what makes you happy? And it's maybe a bit of not techie advice, but it's general advice that's given way too often, but it's super, super true. Figure out what you want to do and do that, and then everything will be okay.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today, and I want to thank the students who watched us today. I hope you liked the video, and please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like it, and wait for the future coming videos again, and see you soon. Have a great time, and see you. Bye.
See you.